Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to have a think about Bitcoin in the very short term, but also over the rest of this year and into next. Now, I've already made a video on this, but in the short term, the Bitcoin actually looks pretty good. We're above all major moving averages. This is a weekend though, so we have to take it with a pinch of salt. It does look like we will maybe try to test the $50,000, maybe even back up to maybe about $52,000 over the weekend. Might not happen. This is a weekend, and there's other reasons where I think that Bitcoin is not going to struggle. But I don't think it's quite ready yet to have its breakout. Now, obviously, anything could happen. It's acted pretty strong so far, and actually, when it comes to the chart in itself, it does look pretty good. You know, I'm not bearish on this chart, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't be trading it actively myself and be so exposed to the market in general. So this is the accumulation range, roughly between $48,000 to $50,000 top to about $28,000 bottom. All of this area has been accumulation, the majority of it taking place within here. Got our golden cross, and like I say, the uptrend is looking pretty strong, I would say, for what it's worth. But there's another story. So if we just rewind as this was going up, we had this big dump down here. Now we anticipated this on the channel. Probably goes back about 3, 4, maybe even 5 weeks ago when I was talking about what could be a liquidity grab, right? As we approach the top of the accumulation zone, which is between 48 and 50. I was saying do not be surprised at all if we do catch a significant drop from here to maybe even down to the $41,000 zone. Basically wiping out a lot of over-leveraged longs or longs in general as we approach what would be a considerable milestone for the price action. So we peaked above here and then we got that liquidity grab. So I'm not overly concerned about the size of this candle because we've seen things like this before. If we go back in time to just prior to the big breakout, if anyone was around back in these times, it doesn't look like much here. But this is the previous liquidity grab that I referenced. As we were going into a nice uptrend, we were getting closer to the $20,000 top, and then we had a liquidity grab of about 17, almost 18%. So I said, look, let's think about what could happen, and the liquidity grab could happen, and I think that's what's happened here. The uptrend is still pretty strong, and over the next I'd say 3-4 weeks or so, I think that we'll have a breakout for Bitcoin. And that, what that'll do to altcoins, we don't really know. But for Bitcoin particularly, I think by the end of September into October, we'll definitely have the breakout for it, and we'll head up to our previous top and then beyond. And the rest of the year looks pretty rosy, I would say, and it corresponds to the 4-year cycle, which is something that I hold highly relevant. But another thing that's quite relevant, not massively, is the Dixie, so the dollar index. And I don't know if anyone trades traditional markets. I don't really trade them, but I do keep an eye on them, and they're looking a little bit toppy, and I think one of the reasons for that is that the Dixie is gaining in value. In fact, the Dixie looks relatively strong for the short term and also for the long term. So this is Dixie on the weekly here, approaching the top of this box once again. This is our main area of resistance, 93.4. And I think we're likely to break that and maybe head all the way up to 94, possibly even all the way up to 95, right? This is one of the reasons traditional markets is looking a bit toppy, and precious metals also. They've had a bit of a bad couple of days in the last few weeks, and of the last week, sorry. And if we do get rejected from here, that's where everything will have another bid. Everything will go up again. But for the moment, the strength of the dollar based on the weekly and on the daily does offer a little bit more upside before we get a decent rejection. That rejection should bring it down over maybe the course of the year. But looking at the direction of this chart based on the weekly here, over the long term, I actually think this is going to go up, maybe up to post-pandemic levels, which would correspond to the 4-year cycle, meaning that by the end of this year, into the very beginning of next, we might reach our top for cryptocurrency, and then we'll enter into an actual bear market. None of these little things, these little mini bear markets. I mean, a prolonged, sustained bear market looks relatively likely based on the strength of this dollar and also the 4-year cycle, which is a model that fits so far so good. And if the model fits, I prefer to go with a model that has already completed 2 times in a row, looking to complete a 3rd time now, than to expect a model that hasn't been confirmed, like lengthening cycles, which is very possible. It's a different market now for crypto. It's more mature, way more money in it than ever before, but still highly volatile, and money can come out like we already saw in May, where basically it almost halved in its value in what, a week or so, a couple of weeks. Trillions then left the market. For the majority of the time I've been in cryptocurrency, it's been trading for under half a trillion, and then suddenly when it inflated in its value massively, suddenly up over a trillion just left the market instantly, and then entered the market all over again. So it's a very different market than it was before. Altcoins are way more established than ever before. Hence the Bitcoin dominance chart looking so bearish still. But like I say, the Dixie does have a correlation to Bitcoin's price, obviously, because it's just like a forex chart, isn't it? A stronger dollar, anything that's pegged into a dollar, will not necessarily go down in value, but because it's pegged against a dollar which is increasing in its value, will struggle to make such massive moves because it's valued in dollars essentially. Tether, and all the other stable coins, they're all pegged to a dollar. Anyway, so long story short, I think a little bit more upside for the dollar, getting a rejection from either here or here before it finds a nice rejection, and then into next year we will probably go up to post-pandemic levels, causing Bitcoin and crypto and anything that's pegged to a dollar, whether it's major indices like the Nasdaq or the Dow Jones, gold, silver, all of that will go down, including Bitcoin and crypto. And I think the bear market is almost certainly going to take place next year, maybe very early next year. So we're in the last stages of what would be the bull market, and ready for a giant bull run, in my opinion. So just a quick overview of how Bitcoin and altcoins are going to behave during this period. We've come down to this level, this very strong support level, and this is bear market territories. But this is kind of the lowest Bitcoin dominance has ever been, and we bounced from here and we're bouncing again. I think that this chart is still going to be bearish, but catching a bounce from here could bring us all the way up to about 44.5% dominance before we get another rejection, and then I think we are going to play this area for a little longer before we actually break down completely and move down. I'm in favour of a breakdown now. Prior to this, I was more interested in seeing this move up to these levels around 52. Doesn't look likely until we reclaim the centre of this Bollinger Band. The 20 weekly on the Bitcoin dominance does actually look pretty bearish, but it doesn't mean that we can't push up to around 44 to 44.5% dominant, which means that altcoins will lose some sats. Not all of them, some of them will lose some sats in the short term. Doesn't mean they'll lose their dollar value, but it means that Bitcoin might outperform them, whether it's in an up or a downtrend. The strength looks to be in the very short term in Bitcoin versus altcoins. Again, no altcoin is created equal. This is an overview of the market. It's a way to hedge against risk, and that's how it should be interpreted, hedging against your risk, whether it's in a downtrend or an uptrend. When we come down to a support, you buy supports, don't you? You sell resistances. That's basically the simplest way to interpret any chart. And we are bouncing from a support here, and the resistance, a strong one, is going to be at 44 to 44.5. So in the very short term, Bitcoin does look like the better place to be. But again, I'm spread across the board. I've got probably about 60% of my portfolio is altcoins. The rest is basically Bitcoin. So it doesn't mean that I'm all out into Bitcoin. Far from it. Every chart should be interpreted individually, because all charts are separate. Do you know what I mean? Altcoins are looking at a Bitcoin dominance chart and treating every single altcoin the same way is it's not the way to do it. But what we look at here is, all right, what should we expect in the short term? Possibly with Bitcoin maybe being the stronger asset, generally speaking, but overall, it looks pretty apparent that the market is going to move together, and altcoins largely look like they're going to outperform Bitcoin. So that's the longer term. But in the very short term, we are catching a bounce here. This area does remind me of this area over here, where we did spend several weeks sort of finding bounces from this level before it actually broke down. A very strong area of support here that actually eventually broke down significantly. And even though this is a larger drop, there was less money involved in the market back here. There's way more money in the market now than there is here. So smaller drops from, let's just say, from 40% down to 36%. Is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. If there's a rotation out of Bitcoin into altcoins, just from here to here is a lot of money. But from here definitely I would expect a rotation to really kick in, and I would be a bit more careful. I would definitely hedge out of some of my altcoins into Bitcoin the lower we go, especially a breakdown from here. Doesn't mean that we can't break down and make even brand new lows. Do you know what I mean? I'd never be all out, never be all in, but again, it's a matter of hedging it for the risk. So, long story short, Dixie bullish, Bitcoin's static, altcoins on, on the back foot ever so slightly on the short term, long term bullish. Overall, everything in crypto does appear to be bullish for the rest of this year, but next year does show warning signals based upon the Dixie chart and the way that I think that this is going to go, and also because of the 4-year cycle and the way that that's going to go. Either way, looking so far ahead is not something to get tattooed to your forehead and marry those that as what should and absolutely 100% has to happen. But it does kind of look like that's going to happen. There's a few things to suggest that that's why it would and how it will happen. In the short term, though, Bitcoin's probably going to have a little bit of a good weekend. Into next weekend, I probably would imagine a bit more downside. But next month, and for the rest of the year, into the winter, into the fourth quarter, I'm looking for big bull market, big bull run across the board. And then we should really think about how extended the charts are, and be a bit more guarded about how we're going to treat our portfolios and not get too greedy. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. I know that was a long video, but I hope you have a nice weekend, and I'll see you on the live stream tonight for Patreon members. Otherwise, join the Telegram. It's all in the links in the description below. Have a nice day, everyone. Take it easy.